What are some of the challenges that we experience in the public sector? First of all, the causes of societal problems are often known, but their solution not, as was expressed by the G20, who said we know what brought about the finance crisis, but we don't know what to do about it. And in such cases, when we don't know what to do about it, we are doing more of the same, and/or we throw money at the problem. There were trillions thrown at the banks to rescue them in the light of a crisis that they brought about in the first place. What can Biomatrix programs contribute to that? We provide a necessary comprehensive system theory and methodology for analyzing and dissolving complex problems. And the benefits would be that public policy designers and decision makers become more competent and confident in facilitating public policy and strategy designs. And also, they would have a theoretical basis for brainstorming new approaches and new ideas on how to solve those problems. The designs that are created during the program demonstrate that systems can function in a different manner, that they can be sustainable, and that they can benefit all stakeholders. Another challenge is that the self-interest in organizations creates societal problems or problems in the public domain. The finance crisis is a case in point, where the self-interest of organizations brought about a huge crisis in the public sector. And another issue is that cooperation between public and private sector and between organizations in the name of improving the public domain cannot be enforced, but is voluntary. If actors don't want to cooperate, they don't need to. What can we do to alleviate that problem? Again, we have an underlying theory and methodology that allows for synergistic and win-win based cooperation across sectors and also across levels in the interest of dissolving complex societal problems. The benefits that our programs stimulate voluntary cooperation by aligning mindsets and also assisting participants in creating win-win strategies, which in turn again favor cooperation. And also we stimulate the exploration of new models of cooperation and new governance models in the public domain. Another challenge in the public domain is that current governance structures lead to disjointed decision-making or uncoordinated decision-making. For example, infrastructure development is hugely hampered by having different local and even national authorities making their own decisions about an infrastructure which should be shared across a region. And there are not really powerful enough governance structures available that could enforce a global and local public and private sector cooperation. And governance structures are too short-term for long-term decision-making. It is very difficult for a government that is elected out after 4 or 5 years to push through strategies that may only come to fruition after 5, 10 or more years. What can the Biomatrix programs do or contribute? Again, it is the underlying theory that provides generic frameworks and governance models, governance principles that could facilitate cooperative strategy development and also cooperative strategy implementation by the relevant stakeholders involved. The benefit is that The programs provide ideas for an information age governance. And one of the ideas we contribute is that of a function-based stakeholder governance. Another challenge in the public domain is the politicking, lobbying, ignoring of stakeholder interests, and also generally a non-transparent decision-making in the public sector. Governments can hide behind an anonymous majority and claiming just because they have been elected, they can make the decisions that they want to make. Our contribution here would be to provide frameworks and governance models that allow for stakeholder involvement, and we also have methods that could help to facilitate that. And the benefit would be a more transparent decision-making. For example, if we had a function-based stakeholder governance, governments would be accountable around very specific issues to stakeholders. So decision-making would become much more transparent and much more systemic. As a system thinker, one becomes very aware that one of the core contributing factors to our inability to solve our complex societal problems is reductionist thinking, which prevents holistic solutions. The generic problem associated with this is that reductionist thinking optimizes parts and therefore sub-optimizes wholes. For example, the unsustainable energy industry is an emergence from the decision-making of individual players along the energy supply chain from their own functional perspective and from the perspective of their own self-interest. The legacy business models of the coal, oil, and nuclear industries drive humanity further and further into an unsustainable energy future. We have many sustainable energy solutions, but we do not have overarching designs of how we can phase them in along the energy supply chain while reducing the share of the non-renewable energy. For example, to allow the solar and wind energies to contribute a growing share to electricity generation could require a change in the business model of the coal industry from being a reliable, continuous energy provider to being a complementary energy provider for the times when the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow. An industry is not likely to make such changes unless driven by a larger and overarching vision and regulatory dictates. In response to this challenge, the Biomatrix Societal Transformation Program facilitates the creation of holistic designs as well as a paradigm shift amongst the participating stakeholders. The benefits of this is that the program produces comprehensive designs because the design span industries as well as the private and public sectors and the systems of nature, society and technology. Also, the designs are internally consistent because they follow a systemic design. That means systemic frameworks, systemic principles, and change management procedures, which deliver holistic solutions. And the designs are implementable because they are win-win based, and also because stakeholders cooperate in all phases of the program, from brainstorming to design and implementation planning. And the implementation planning itself shows the feasibility of implementation.